Hi there. So in this video, we're going to continue talking about decimals. So in the last video, we added and subtracted decimals. In this one, we're going to be looking at how you multiply decimals. We open this up, and it says that the first step in multiplying decimals is to multiply as you would multiply whole numbers. So the multiplication part of multiplying decimals is exactly the same. All right, so we're not changing that at all. Step 2 says that we need to place the decimal. So after you multiply, really the only thing you have to do is figure out where to put your decimal. So the way you do that is you're going to this reads the number of decimal places in the product is the same number of decimal places in the factors, all right? So after you multiply, you're going to figure out where your decimal goes by counting the number of decimal places in the factors and then putting the same number of decimal places in the product. All right, so let's try it. So I have these two numbers, 1.159 times, the dot means multiplication, times 0.03. And when I set up my multiplication problem, I'm always going to start with the number that has the most digits and put that on top. It's just easier for me to multiply. And then, unlike adding and subtracting, you do not need to line up your decimal place. So it's okay that this one has 3 decimal places and this just has 2. Multiplication, that doesn't matter. And adding and subtracting, we'd have to line them up and add zeros, but this is different. All right, so I'm going to put the 1.159 on top. I'm going to multiply it times 0.03. All right? And I left off this 0 at the beginning because it's just a placeholder. It's not going to change how I multiply. All right, so 3 times 9 is 27. So I'm going to carry that 2. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. Carry that 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. All right, so that part is just multiplying. We ignore the decimals and just multiply like we would normally multiply. I don't need to do the 0 because it's not going to change the answer to this problem. All right, so what is different is where I put the decimal now that I've multiplied. All right, and so what I want to do is I'm going to go back to the factors. Those are the numbers I'm multiplying, and count how many decimal places were in each one. So if I start from the 9 and just move over till I get to the decimal, I can see that there's 1, 2, 3 decimal places in that first number. If I do the same thing with the second one, there's 1, 2, 2 decimal places in the second factor. All right, so if I add those up, 3 plus 2, I get 5. That tells me there needs to be 5 decimal places in the product, in the answer. All right, so I'm always going to start from the back and move to the left. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces that I need to move. All right, well, I can see that I can actually only move 4 spaces. So in order to move 5 spaces, what I have to do is add a 0 here so that I can actually move the decimal, or I can make it so that there are 5 decimal places in my product. So my final answer ends up being 0.03477. Okay, and I can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal places, just like I had wanted it there to be. All right, let's try number 2. So again, I'm multiplying 2 numbers. I'm always going to put the one with the most digits on top. This 0 doesn't really count because it's just holding a space here. So they both have 2, so it really doesn't matter which one I put on top. Again, because this is multiplication, I don't have to line up any decimals or add any zeros, at least for multiplying. All right, and then I'm just going to ignore them while I multiply. So 3 times 5 is 15. Carry your 1. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. I'm going to start that second row with a 0 and then multiply the 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. Carry your 2. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22. So when I add these numbers together, I get 5, 8, 3, and 2. All right, so again, multiplication hasn't changed. Now I just need to figure out where the decimal place goes. All right, so if I count this first factor, 1, 2, there are 2 decimal places. If I count the second factor, there's 1 decimal place. So 2 plus 1 is 3. That means I need a total of 3 decimal places in my product. So I'm going to start from the back and count 3. 1, 2, 3. So that puts the decimal between the 2 and the 3. So this answer is 2.385. All right, and our last example, it says Jennifer makes $8.75 an hour walking dogs. She walks dogs for 2.5 hours per week. How much does she earn each week? All right, so she's going to, for 1 hour, get $8.75, but she works for more than an hour. She works for 2.5 hours or 2.5 hours. So the way to figure out how much she's making is to multiply these numbers together. All right, so I want to put the one with the most digits on the top, and this one has 3, this one has 2, so I'm going to use the 8.75 first, and then I'm going to multiply times 2.5. Again, I'm not lining up any decimals or adding any zeros. I only do that with adding and subtracting. So start with the 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry your 2. 5 times 7 is 37 plus 2. 5 times 7 is 35 plus 2 is 37. Getting ahead of myself. 5 times 8 is 40 plus 3 is 43. And then I'm going to start with the 0. 2 times 5 is 10. I'm going to carry the 1. 2 times 7 is 14 plus 1 is 15. Carry a 1. 2 times 8 is 16 plus 1 is 17. All right, I'm going to add these up. 5 plus 0 is 5. 7 plus 0 is 7. 3 plus 5 is 8. 4 plus 7 is 11. Carry your 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. All right. And so the final step is to figure out where to put the decimal. So if I look at this first number, 8.75, I can see there are 1, 2 decimal places. Here there's 1 decimal place, so that's a total of 2 plus 1 is 3. So starting from the back, I'm going to count over 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. That puts my decimal between the 1 and the 8, so 21.875, which is normally the answer for when you're just multiplying numbers together. But in this case, the question we were asked is how much she earns each week. So if I look at this problem, this is really not written in money like I normally would see it, all right? And I would never say $21.875. That doesn't make any sense. Money only goes to the hundredths place, all right? So I need to get rid of this 5, but before I do that, I have to decide if it's going to round the 7 up to 8 or if it should just stay a 7. The way I do that is to look at the number on the right, all right? And since this is 5, if it's 5 or more, then I round the number next to it up 1, all right? So since this is a 5, this is going to round up. So this becomes $21.88. So my final answer, because I had to round it because of the money, because it's a question about money, becomes $21.88. All right, so just to kind of sum up what we did, when we're multiplying decimals, we're going to multiply like we normally would, ignoring the decimal until the very end. All right, and then after we're done multiplying, we're going to figure out where to put the decimal, where to place the decimal, by counting the numbers of decimal places in my factors, adding those up, and then figuring out where that would be in the product. So, and for example, there were 3 here, 2 here, so 5 total. If you need to, you add zeros so that you have the right number of decimal places, but you don't always have to add a 0. All right, I'll see you soon.